Welcome to Meyers Spring Ranch. The following photos are artifacts from the Indian Wars. The artifacts at hand are a couple thousand years old. In Meyers Spring Ranch, there used to be soldiers stationed which were ordered to protect settlers from indigenous people such as Native Americans and Indians. There were also Comanche, Apache, Lipan, Mescalero, and Kickapoo tribes located out at the ranch. Usually thought to be a fort, this military encampment was used for housing soldiers. The military had then leased it to the Pecos Land and Cattle Company, which had built the house. People had lived in the house, but then gave it back to Bullis, who had then used it to shelter horses. Inside of the barn, there was a picture of a man named John Bullis, who was associated with the Black Seminoles. Black Seminoles are a group of people who are half African American and half Seminole Indian. The Black Seminoles lived in Mexico for a long time with other Indians, but were not too wild, so they were recruited by the military to help push out other indigenous people. Then they had became soldiers and scouts for the military. As a way to communicate, they all spoke Spanish to each other. John Bullis was busy purchasing land with permanent water so that they could stay hydrated during their long hours. There was a big battle with Native Americans in Mexico around 1877. In this area, about 4 companies of soldiers had stayed to rest before heading up to Brackettville. The military had brought down infantry from South Dakota to build the old road going to the spring. After the infantry finished the road, they had left to Fort Stockton and Fort Davis. They had stationed soldiers who had stayed for 24 hours, making sure that there were no Native Americans trying to do things such as stealing their horses. The soldiers were provided with a wagon route to deliver them food and water. When soldiers had empty cans, they would bring the cans out and use them as target practice in their free time. On the ranch, there are markers that look like tents, which indicate where the soldiers were stationed. The small triangle ones were the soldiers, while the bigger box ones were the commanding officers inside of the circle. This camp was made for the Black Seminole. On this site was found coat buttons, cuff buttons, vest buttons, trouser buttons, and regular buttons, left over from the Black Seminole. Some of the soldiers were tasked with scooping up water with a metal bucket and putting it in a barrel for the wagons to take on their routes. While they gathered water, others had went to go hunt for deer. Sometimes the soldiers would go to Sanderson and buy or trade with vegetables. The guns that the soldiers had used were Spencer rifles. Spencer rifles were the first ever repeating rifles. The soldiers had also worn clothes made out of wool. The soldiers had no machinery. They used a weighted system on a lever to put rocks onto the wagons, to carry them to a certain area to be able to build structures. They had also used square nails, which has 4 times the holding strength of a regular nail, but are too expensive to produce. Down in Meyers Springs, there are paintings with ochre. Most of the paintings were made during the contact period, when Native Americans and Europeans made contact with one another. This is shown from the painting of horses, even though they had gone extinct in America during this time period. There were also drawings of crosses, a church, and a priest on a horse. There's also paintings most likely made by Humanos, which is a conquistador and a symbol known as a zia. Some paintings had depictions of weapons known as arquebus, which was a heavy gun with a fuse. One painting is also sporting a shield and boots. There are pictures of buzzards in a heraldic pose, a pose that they do while warming their wings in the morning. There is also a drawing of a deer and Native Americans on horses chasing the deer. There is also a depiction of an Apache crown dancer, where a man would have a big crown, where they would dance and host a feast. This painting is known to be painted by kin of the Apache's tribe. One of these paintings have a story linked with it. The story is about the Humanos Indians riding up and meet the conquistadors and priests, and the Indians kneel when they have a cross with them. The conquistadors and priests were confused since they had no way of knowing about Christ. The Indians tell them about how they were told the religion by the Lady in Blue, a nun named Mary located in Spain, who had projected herself so that the Indians would be able to see her so she could tell them about Christ without leaving her home. The nun had admitted that she had talked to the Indians and had perfectly described the area she was projected to. There is also a picture of the Humanos coming in contact with the soldiers, holding a cross on a pedestal while there is an hourglass type of shape, which is supposed to be the Lady in Blue coming to talk to the Humanos. There is also a picture of the Humanos dancing with a priest behind them. There are holes near the site where the Indians made cornmeal and flour, so they grinded them up in holes with wooden or rock pestles. For the high up paintings, like the shaman person, they had used tools to help them paint higher up. When they had to drill out a tank next to the area, they had drilled out with a star drill, where they had to hit it and turn it to dig into the material.